We'll continue our video series on how the Desmos graphing calculator on EQ can be best used on EQAO grade 9 math. In earlier video, we looked at graphing questions. Now we're going to look at how we can use the table features of Desmos effectively. So I'm going to dive straight into one of our questions in our mock test here, and looking at this question, trying to figure out which one of these is linear. So I know our math teachers will be able to look at it, and of course our awesome grade 9 math students can see that C looks like the one that has the same first differences, so we can probably go here. But let's use Desmos to see if we can confirm this. So again, the split screen is key. So I have Desmos open over here, and I'm going to add, so I go to the plus, and this time I'm going to add a table. And we'll add in our first example. So we're just going to go 1, 2, 3 and type in the numbers for A, which are 1, 3, and 6. And immediately you can see, and we'll zoom here, that this is not going to be straight. So I feel pretty good about that one. Even though we're pretty confident C, let's just quickly check B. And again, that one looks like it's off. Now let's go to the one that I feel good about, 2, 5, and 8. This one does look like it's in a straight line, but I will check D as well, 4 and 8, and again that does look a little bit off. So that's great, but it's still, I'm not 100% sure that it's C. And this is where a newly released feature of Desmos is really powerful. So I'm going to go to my answer of 2, 5, and 8, and I'm going to check out with using a linear regressions. Now, linear regressions used to be a little bit of a pain on Desmos, but they've simplified this significantly by adding this button right here. And so if we, with one button, does a linear regression, and now you can see that all of those go through that point really easily. So now I feel really confident that this is the linear one. I could go back and check some of those other ones, especially ones that were kind of close, and you see that it does a linear regression, but because these are not in a straight line, the linear regression isn't quite perfect. And so that's a quick way to check. Just while I'm here looking at linear regressions, it even gives you the equation of the linear one. So if this question wasn't just about which one is linear, but asked you to find the equation of the line that goes through these points, one button with a linear regression, and you have your answer. Let's look at another one. So this question talks about a table showing the relationship between the distance of an object traveled over time. And we want to know, continue this table to see what's the distance traveled in 5 seconds. So we can clear this off and add a new table, but for the sake of time, I've already added this table in for us. So there's the table 0, 0, 1, 1, 5, 1.5, 2, 3, 3, and 4.5. So looking here, and we can see that that is pretty straight. As expected, this was a linear. I'm going to go and push the linear regression button to just go off and get what the regression on this one is. And so I want to know at 5 seconds. So one quick way you can do it when you're on the line, you can take your cursor and go right to 5. Now it's a little bit of a pain, especially if you're using a trackpad, but it looks like my answer is 5 and 7.5. There's one way to get my answer of 7.5. Another is to actually go in and put these in. So I'm going to put 5 seconds. So I'm just going to put it at the end of my table, 5, and let's try 6. And you see that it now screws up the linear regression and it doesn't appear to be in that one that we want. Go back and put in 6.5. Again, this doesn't look like the right one because it should go following in a straight line. Go in and put in 7, and even at, I know 7 is not one of my answers, but you can see 7 isn't quite perfect, so 7.5, however, does get us right on there. And then 9, again, is off. So whether you use the linear regression or not, and I'll just delete it, you can get some pretty confident answers that yes, indeed, that does match. If we do use the linear regression, you would have the equation, and you can also check by substituting in 5 into this equation. And even just doing this, 1.5 times 5, and we get our answer of 7.5 really quickly. So all ways we can use this table to answer this question. Let's look at another one. So this might seem like a similar one, and in fact it is, but I wanted to bring this up because we're going to have to change our scales to be able to see what's going on. So in this question here, we're talking about emptying a pool, and so now the numbers are in the 60s and 55,000s. And so when I input that, we have some problems. Now I'm just going to make this a little bigger so you can see all the features. So there it is, but again, when I look at it, it doesn't appear to be what's going on. So I'm going to go to the settings. So the graph setting is up here, and this is where you can change this. Now you can scroll in and out using your trackpad, but of course this is pretty far, so the settings feature is better. I've got some X's going from 0, so I'm going to go 0 to maybe 60, and so you can go to your stuff there. And again, the Y's, I'm going to go from 0 to, 0 to 60,000. This gets us a better idea. From here, I usually zoom in and out just to get a better picture, because when you put it at 0, of course, it's right up along the edge. So there I have got a pretty good idea of my graph. And so now I'm going to use my linear regression button. And again, this will now just allow us to continue on, and I can zoom out and pretty quickly see that the answer is 120. Again, because of the awesome features of Desmos, I can just click on that button and see that 120 is when I'll have 0. And so if I go back to my split screen and pull up my answer, there we had 120 minutes was the answer that I am going to pick. This last question sort of combines my earlier video on using graphing and tables here to effectively answer this question. So this one says information about two linear relations is given. What point satisfies both? So again, we would hope that the student understands in order to be part of both, if we were to graph these, we'd be looking at the spot where the point that is on both the graph and the table. So I've already copied the graph into this starter spot. So let's put in the equation, y equals negative 2x plus 11. Now you notice, of course, we'll have to change my view a little bit so I can see all the points on the table. But the table, of course, just has this. We can quickly use the linear regression button to get a line that goes through those, and then to spot where they must satisfy both pops up immediately as 1, 9. So we can suspect that that line becomes 1, 9. You, of course, can check the other ones. So 0, 0, 0, 0 would be down here. It doesn't look like it's on either of those. 0, 11, 0, 11 looks like it's on the black line, but not in the table. 5, 25, so 5, 25 is around here, and it looks like it would be on the table, but not the graph, but 1, 9 is. You can, of course, sub things in here. So if we wanted to actually put it in here, we would see that that dot would line up with that line. As I tested other ones, remember the line would change, so we don't necessarily want to trust that. But if I had this out, remember I do get the linear regression, so I can actually write that equation down. Now if I turn off the table, I've just got this blue one, let's make it purple, this purple one that represents the table and the black one, and now I can do a test of any point. So let's test that point 1, 9, and I can see it's definitely on that. But if I wanted to test something like 0, 11, you can see it's not on this purple one. I think the 5, 25 is on the old one, so it would be part of this table, but not part of the line. So a cool way to quickly get a check that the answer is 1, 9. All right, so there's 4 ways that you can use tables and to answer EQAO type questions.